What's going on? Thursday, August 29th, 2024. Tris Speaker. One of the greatest hitters of all time, and I can prove it by looking at every single game that he played, looking at all his box scores and all his accomplishments. I rank him in the top 5 greatest hitter of all time, different from greatest player of all time. Greatest player would be all encompassing. You can include all the stats. You can look at games played, at bats, runs scored, total hits, doubles, triples, homers, RBIs, stolen bases, walks, batting average, on base, slugging, total bases. How many times did they strike out? How do they do on defense? Do you know that Tris Speaker is one of the greatest defensive players of all time? He has the most putouts, assists, double plays, chances. He's right up there as far as the center fielder. So on defense, he excelled. On offense, he also was spectacular. 3,514 career hits, lifetime batting average 345, over 10,000 career at bats, and he maintained 345 average. Wouldn't you put him in your top 5 as far as hitting? Now I know he only had 117 career home runs. Compare that with Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Ted Williams, Jimmy Fox, those guys, 500, 600. Henry Aaron, Willie Mays, 500, 600, 700 home runs. As far as greatest player of all time, you got to put Ruth in there, number 1. You could put Gehrig, what he accomplished, Jimmy Fox, Ty Cobb, Ted Williams, Henry Aaron, Willie Mays, those guys, what they accomplished in their career. But I'm focusing on hitting the baseball. Did you know that Tris Speaker only struck out 393 times? He had 10,195 career at-bats. One season, he had 471 at-bats and struck out 9 times. We do know, you should know this stat. Who has the most career doubles? Tris Speaker, 792. Now, getting a double is not easy. You can get a base hit. Home runs are not easy. Triples are not easy. Singles, we can categorize that as one of the easier things to do in baseball is getting a base hit if you have 10,000 at bats. But getting a double is a little bit harder. You got to hit it in the left center, right center, and make it to second base, or you hit it down the line over first base or over third base down the line. Or if you hit it over the outfielder's head, stretch it into a double. He had 792 of them. Nobody else had that many. So I'm looking at the 1921 season. So far, I've done 1907 through 1920. Looked at every season, looked at every at-bat. This video, 1921 season, 132 games, 506 at-bats, 107 runs scored. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His 6th season over 100 runs scored. 183 hits. 52 doubles. 1, 2, his 3rd time over 50 doubles in a season. 14 triples, 3 homers. Not a home run guy. 117 career home runs. So as far as putting him in one of the greatest players of all time, you would have to rank him in the top 20 because of the shortage of home runs. Guys who hit 500, 600, 700 home runs Those are in the greatest player category. Aaron, Ruth, Mays, Fox, Williams. 75 RBIs. He had RBIs, 1,531 in his career. Did you know that Lou Gehrig had 1,995 RBIs, yet he only played 17 years? Speaker played 5 more years, had like 500 or 600 more games, yet Gehrig beat Speaker in RBIs. How about that? So that's why you got to put Gehrig in the greatest player category. As far as greatest hitter, Gehrig, I believe about what, 2,600 hits? Speaker, 3,500 hits, 900 more hits. So I'm putting Speaker ahead of Gehrig as far as greatest hitters. 345 to Gehrig's 340. 2 stolen bases, 68 walks, 362 batting average. Not bad, right? 362. The year before, you had 388. .439 on base, 538 slugging, 272 total bases. Gehrig does better in total bases than Speaker. That's why you put Gehrig in the greatest player category. But I'm focusing on hitters. Ty Cobb, number 1. Definitely. 366 average career. 4189 base hits. But you got to put Speaker in the top 5. During the 1921 season, he had a 16-game hitting streak, 58 multi-hit games, 33 two-hit games, 19 three-hit games, 4 four-hit games. He had 17 games, 2 runs scored, 8 games, 3 runs scored. He had 13 games of 2 RBIs, 5 games, 3 RBIs, and he had a 1-5 RBI game. So I start off this video making the proclamation. Tris Speaker is one of the greatest hitters of all time, and I'm sticking to it. Prove me wrong. Would you, here's the question I would ask you. Would you put Tris Speaker in the top 5 greatest hitter of all time? I would. Now, where does he rank? We have to put Ty Cobb greatest hitter of all time. Not the greatest player. Babe Ruth was the greatest player of all time. What he accomplished in his 22-year career, and 6 of them were pitching, yet he still gets 2,800 hits, 714 homers, 342 career batting average. Way up there in RBI, over 2,000 RBIs, had 500 doubles, 5,800 total bases. I mean, and slugging 690 career. So you got to put Babe Ruth greatest player of all time. Greatest hitter of all time, Ty Cobb, number 1. Who's number 2? Hitting category. Roger Hornsby, he had 358 career batting average, but he had 2,900 career hits. 358, though. That beats Tris Speaker's 345. But Speaker has more career hits, like 600 more. He has way more doubles. Doesn't have as many homers. Hornsby had over 300 homers. Speaker, 117. That's the one flaw of Tris Speaker. Career home runs, 117. So, after I'm done covering Tris Speaker's 22-year career, I still need to do the 22 season through 2080. He finished playing in 1928. I've got about 7 more years to go covering his box scores. I want to look to see how many 2-hit games he had, how many 3-hit games, 4-hit games, 5-hit games. I want to see if he had some stellar RBI games. So I want to look at every single box score from 1922 to 1928. Then I'm going to do a recap on Tris Speaker. And I'm going to rank him. He's either number 2, 3, 4, or 5 greatest hitter of all time. If you delve into the career stats of someone, you got to look at all the categories. But I'm focusing on hitting. Did you know that Tris Speaker had 222 triples, 792 doubles? These are outstanding stats. That beats a lot of players. Cobb, he's number 1 as far as greatest hitter of all time. You want to compare him? All right, let's see. What I'll do is I'll punch in Ty Cobb's stats right now. Compare him with Speaker. Okay. Doubles. Cobb, 724. Yeah, he had 24 years, though. He played 2 more years than Speaker. 724. Never had 50 doubles in a season. Speaker did it 4 times. 792, 724. This is interesting. It's a difference of 68 doubles. Yet Cobb played longer. So Speaker was more proficient in doubles. How about triples? Cobb had 295. He kept going. Rounded second, went to third. 295. Speaker, 222. It's a difference of 73. So even though Cobb plays longer, he has more triples than Tris Speaker. Did you know that? You want to hear a crazy stat? How many career home runs did Ty Cobb have? He had 117. How many career home runs for Tris Speaker? 117. Cobb plays longer, but they both had 117 home runs. Did you know that stat? I didn't know that. So both of them are not home run hitters. They're singles, doubles, and triples hitters. Cobb had 600 more hits than Tris Speaker, but he played 2 years more than Speaker. Cobb played, let's see, Cobb played 3,034 games. I'll punch it in. Speaker, 2,789. That's a difference of 245 games that Cobb played more than Tris Speaker. Yet Cobb had 600 more hits. So let's say if Speaker played 245 more games. Well, on a 162 game season, or no, let's say 154 game season back then, let's say he averaged 200 hits, which he did. He got a lot of 200 hit seasons. 2 more years would be 400 more hits. Remember I told you that Cobb has 600 more. So even though if Speaker played the same number of games as Ty Cobb, Cobb would beat him in career hits because he has a career batting average 366. Speaker 345. So that's why I've got Cobb number 1 greatest hitter of all time. Now, are you clear? I am distinguishing between hitter and player. Greatest player of all time, Babe Ruth. Who's number 2? Who's number 3, 4, and 5? That will be determined. Greatest hitter of all time, Cobb, number 1. Who's number 2, 3, 4, 5? That will be determined. And the way to do it is you have to look across the board and distinguish the player and the hitter. As far as in the hitting category, I've got Stan Musial and Tris Speaker in the top 5. I don't know if Speaker beats Musial. Musial had more career hits, but Speaker had the better career batting average. Musial had more home runs, but Speaker had more doubles and triples. So how do you determine who's better? You got to go across the board. I think I'll match those two guys up, Stan Musial and Tris Speaker. I've already matched up Ty Cobb and Tris Speaker. Cobb gets the edge. But as far as Musial and Speaker, I don't know who gets the edge. I'll find that out. As far as greatest player of all time, you got to go Babe Ruth. He beats out Cobb as far as accomplishing more in a shorter period of time. You know, Babe Ruth had a .342 career batting average with 714 home runs and over 2,000 RBIs. Cobb has a .366, more career hits, but Ruth has more homers and RBIs and total bases, 5,800. How many total bases did Cobb have? He had 5,800. Who had more total bases? Babe Ruth or Ty Cobb? I don't know that answer. Let me look it up. Babe Ruth total bases. Wow, this is an interesting stat. I didn't know this one. Ty Cobb had 5,854 total bases in 3,034 games. Babe Ruth, all right, I got to punch this in. 58.54 for Cobb. Babe Ruth total bases. 5,793. That's a difference of 61 total bases, yet Cobb played, oh wow, 500 more games than Babe Ruth, yet Babe Ruth almost matched him in total bases by coming 61 total bases short. Who's better in total bases? Babe Ruth, because less games and only 61 short of Cobb. Cobb 500 more total games than Ruth, yet only beats him by 61 total bases. So Ruth gets the edge in total bases and home runs and RBIs and slugging. How about on base? Who has the edge? Ruth had a .474 on base. Cobb, .433. Ruth was better on base, better on slugging, better on total bases, because if you match them up, better on homers, better on RBIs. Cobb, better in doubles, triples, batting average, fewer strikeouts. That's why I've got Ruth ahead of Cobb as far as greatest player of all time. I did a matchup on that. Ruth versus Cobb. Ruth won. So I hope you're understanding what I'm doing here. I'm looking at Tris Speaker. I'm looking at these guys, and I'm separating them in player category versus hitter category. That's why I'm covering Tris Speaker right now. I'm impressed with his 3,500 hits, his .345 career batting average, and I'm looking at every box score. So the next video will be the 1922 season. Stay tuned. I'm out.